Hello and welcome to Blizzard Watch, the podcast where we talk about Blizzard and other video games, not just ones from Blizzard. And I managed to come back and do a reasonably okay intro, considering Joe literally just bombed us all with laughter. I'm Matt, I'm the host. With me this week are my two fantastic co-hosts, Liz Harper, the EIC and overall Grand High Boobah of Blizzard Watch. Say hi, Liz.
Howdy!
And Joe, he literally just Mercered me. Like, literally just Mercered me. Perez.
Hey everybody, you should listen to the pre-show. It's great. Yeah. It's worth it.
The pre-show is where we come off the chain quite a bit. It's been an interesting week. When I first wrote the podcast email, I put a little thing in about how I was going to keep the news part light because there wasn't that much stuff. I didn't even finish the email past that point when World of Warcraft Dragonflight pre-orders started.
Yeah.
And there's stuff to talk about there. And then Liz mentioned, but there's also all this Overwatch stuff you missed. And I'm like, how did I miss all this Overwatch stuff?
Because it was really happening at the same time. Again, we were recording, and then all of a sudden this stuff was going up.
So there will, in fact, be quite a bit of stuff we talk about. I'm hoping really hard we get to some of these emails because we have not in a couple weeks. And I feel really bad. But we're going to jump in and try and talk about some stuff right now. First up, the Dragonflight pre-order went live today. It had two things, one of which for some reason I focused on more than the other, which I shouldn't have. And I even knew it because in the headline I wrote for it, I mentioned the thing that was actually important. And then I put it in the second paragraph. Sometimes I'm weird. But yeah, Dragonflight's pre-orders are out. And in the Dragonflight pre-orders, in small text, just underneath the price point for the various tiers of the expansion, they have a little thing saying, the expansion will release on or before December 31st, 2022.
Yep.
Which means, A, they're saying it's going to be before the end of Q4 this year. And B, they didn't say it was going to be on or before anytime next year, which they could have easily done, which means they're pretty sure they're getting that thing out before the point of that, that pre-order. They're reasonably confident they can say that. Or they wouldn't have said that because it would have cost them nothing to say it was coming out in March or June. They could have easily done that and then said, oh, no, it's done, and put it out whenever they wanted. Liz, when do you think this thing's coming out?
I think we're probably looking at, early December. That'd just be my guess. I would like to see it earlier. I'd love to see it this fall, October, September.
Well, October was when wasn't October when they thought Shadowlands was going to come out?
Yeah, I think you're right. It was originally mid-October.
So maybe they're aiming for that again?
I really feel like it's going to be close to the end of the year. And they're going to want to get it out well before Christmas. So that's kind of why I'm thinking early December. They want to get it out before the holidays hit. But even that's a pretty ambitious schedule, considering we haven't seen a beta come out yet. And we don't have full information about everything to give feedback and for them to react to feedback. So yeah, basically that's why I feel it's going to be later this year.
Joe?
Yeah, so Liz and I have a guildie, Korv, who charts this stuff out because that's what he does for fun. I see you, Korv. Hi. He basically has charted the fastest that they've gone from announced to launch, and according to his math, and I'm quoting him here, the absolute fastest they've ever gone announced to launch is 284 days for Battle for Azeroth. Matching that would put us at January 28th, so we're setting record speed here. Matching the fastest announced to beta would be BFA again at 96 days. So yeah, I'm really, really curious if we're actually getting it out by December. I have concerns, but it's interesting that they are targeting end of year for release.
Yeah, one of the things I thought about is, first off, I like Liz's idea because my birthday is in the first week of December, so that would be nice. You did that for me once. They put Cataclysm out on my birthday. I remember that. So go ahead and do it again. Cool. But also, it's interesting to me because, you're pointing out, I mean, I didn't know the specific dates, but I've done a lot of looking at the time that expansions last and how long the quote-unquote content lull is. And we're kind of in the Shadowlands content lull right now. But we haven't had the Season 4 stuff happen yet.
No, so they've got
we
have some
coming.
content still to do that hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, they've got stuff coming. And what's interesting to me about that then is, are we going to see them put out season 4, say it's June now, it's mid-June. If they put out season 4 in July or August, and then it lasts September and October, you're looking at almost no content lull.
Yeah.
Which is good, but
it's
also,
good, but it's unprecedented.
It's unprecedented. I mean, we knew that Dragonflight was further along than they had discussed. Again, because of some of the radical changes coming, that worries me. But it would be really fascinating, because we've often talked about it, especially on this podcast, about what is your release cadence? What can you do to remove content lulls? We don't want to be 2 years in Siege of Orgrimmar. Well, we're not going to be now. So even if it were release, let's say if it doesn't make December for whatever reason, even if it releases shortly thereafter, that's crazy quick.
Yeah, if it came out in January, it would still be really fast.
Yeah, it could come out.
And quite frankly, I would not be surprised if they do it's not coming out for another few weeks, post at some point, because they did that with Shadowlands.
They did that with Shadowlands, and I think. Go ahead.
I think they really do not want to do that. I think that badly on them when they do that. Mm-hmm. And it's a big PR backlash. Everyone's unhappy when they say this is the release date, and then they push it back. So I think they aren't going to want to, and I agree with Matt that they wouldn't have put this date out there if they weren't pretty confident in it.
Yeah, I definitely think that.
I agree, but also there's the other side of the coin where people will backlash if it gets delivered even on time and it's not working properly or it's not fully done. Like, I remember Battle for Azeroth releasing, and that was one of the chief vocalizations that a lot of people had complaint with the game, is that it felt unfinished.
It was really Azerite armor that they hated.
It was, but it was, I mean...
Specifically the unfinished nature of it. I remember one of the real comments on it was, we told you back in the beta that this was this, and you left it exactly the way it was.
And here's my concern again, with the rapid cadence of it, and them doing what they're doing with the talent system and class reworks that go along with it. There's a really good chance of that happening again. It could be Azerite armor all over again. I don't want it to be.
For right now, we don't know. So I am going to move on to the other thing about the announcement, the pre-order page. Basically, there's going to be 3 versions of Dragonflight, like they did for Shadowlands, and I think they did for Battle for Azeroth before.
Technically 4, right?
Yeah, well, one of them's a purely physical copy. But for if you want to spend the money, you can get just base Dragonflight for $50 USD, which I believe Liz is the one who told me you'd know $10 more than it was.
Yeah, everything's gone up by $10.
Yeah, and the next tier up is I can't remember what it's called. Unfortunately, I wrote the post, but I've already forgotten. But the next tier up is the one that has the level 60 character boost and a mount and an extra pet and so forth. That's the $70 USD one. It's $84 up here in Canada. And the final one is the $90 USD one, which has a ton of a transmog hat, a series of winged cloak transmogs. It's one item that gives you 5 transmogs because it can be red, blue, black, bronze, or green dragon wings to match the 5 Dragonflights. So that's all really cool. There's also, and this is Maticus. I got to shout out to Matt Lowe. Maticus, he's the one that pointed this out in work chat. There's also a collector's edition for $170, I think, and I'm not sure if that's Canadian or US.
That's Canadian.
$120.
$120. Okay.
$129 US.
Okay. $129 US. So it goes up to around $170.
Up $10 from the last ones.
Yeah. So one of my friends used to work at Blizzard and now is working for Zynga. She pointed out that the amount of inflation we've seen in the past few months is really high, and that this increase is likely related to that kind of thing, just because it costs a lot of money to pay people.
It does.
Even in a company that is not paying people what they deserve, it's still, people, they do need to pay people. So I'm not too upset about the pay increase, but it is an increase.
It is.
And it's rare for World of Warcraft to get those. The subscription price is still the same.
It is, and I think that's one of the interesting things about it is the price has largely stayed low, possibly because of that. But we've had a discussion before of the price of video games hasn't really changed until recently. Like, back in ye olden days of the 8-bit Nintendo Entertainment System, when you went to, you know, the local Five and Dime to pick up your brand new copy of Duck Hunt, it was $60 or 55 or whatever it was. I still have like Toys R Us cartridges from there that have the sticker on them. And think about that, 1980 some odd, you're getting these late 80s, early 90s, and then prices stayed largely that way up until PS5 and the new Xbox release, and then they went up another $10. And we saw a little bit of a creep in like PC games as well, but those also largely stayed fairly low between $40 and $60 for a long time.
Yeah,
so,
price stagnation has been pretty much prevalent in the video game industry.
Yeah.
For better and for worse. Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, if everything's going up $10 in the grand scheme of things, I'm not overly upset. Also, I personally will be buying the collector set because I have a soft spot for the art books, which, again, shout out to Maticus, who sent me all the ones I was missing when I couldn't secure the collector's editions. But yeah, that's worth the extra money to me. Not so much the and the pin. Oh, it comes with pins! Sweet!
It comes with pins, yeah. But yeah, I think at this point we've talked about it as much, unless there's something else you want to say about it.
I got nothing.
Okay, then we're going to move on to something you reminded us we should talk about. There's a lot of stuff about Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2, first off, it's going to be free to play. I know we mentioned that last week, but I really feel like mentioning it again.
And we had a stream this past week about more Overwatch 2 stuff, so that's what happened.
Talk about the seasonal PvE content, I think that's important.
Okay, we don't really know literally anything about the PvE content except that it is coming. The thing is, the whole game is switching to a seasonal model where they'll have 9-week seasons, and each season will either have a new hero or a new map. So you're going to get a really regular cadence of content, which I think is important because in Overwatch 1, it's really stagnated towards the end of its lifespan. It's really gone, and there's been nothing new for a very long time.
Like easily since 2019, right? Because when the Overwatch 2 trailer launched, that was
they kind of stopped. Yeah, it's like we've had new events. Not new events, but like the same events come up and there are skins and sometimes there's something a little new in there, but mostly the game has stayed the same. So Overwatch 2 is coming out of the gate and saying, okay, we're going to have these 9-week seasons. Every season is going to have something new. And they also said that in 2023, we're going to start getting PvE content seasonally. And that's about all we know, is that they're planning to release PvE content seasonally next year. We don't know when it's going to happen. We don't know if it's going to cost money. We don't know anything about it except that it's coming next year. There's going to be some tied to the seasons. We don't know if it's going to be every season they're going to drop a little bit. We're going to find out. The other thing is that they're going to have a battle pass system.
Yep.
Which, yeah, I mean, y'all have seen these in a lot of games, where, you know, you do things in game and you earn things in the battle pass. There are no more loot boxes, but there will be an in-game store where you can directly buy things. This is, again, a system that we don't know a lot about. We don't know if there will be an in-game currency that you can use to buy things in the shop, or if the shop will be cash only. So I still have a lot of questions about this.
I have a theory.
Yeah, go for it. Go.
It's gonna be a specialized currency. That's what it always is. Looking at games that do this and do this really, really well, look at Fortnite, look at League of Legends, look at all of the free-to-play games. Even Magic the Gathering Arena does this. You cannot almost always cannot use direct money to do the transaction. There are reasons for that. Partially, there's a psychology because you can never get your total to zero. That's specifically designed that way in almost every single one of these games. And if you have, let's say, 200 fictitious coins sitting in your wallet and it costs 800 to buy something, but you can only buy them in 1,000 increments, you're going to more likely to buy the 1,000 increment at whatever arbitrary price is set for real money, spend your 800, and then have 200 left over that goes into your bank. and that cycle repeats in such a way that you can never get your total to 0.
Which is something that Xbox pioneered way back when they had
100%
Microsoft
Xbox.
points.
Yeah, I was going to say Microsoft points, and Nintendo did it too.
Yeah, because it's long known that there's a psychological completion factor. When you manage to get your account to 0, people feel like they're done playing.
Yep.
Like, so I got my account to 0, so I can stop now.
Now, that said, a lot of these games do things better. Like, I don't want to say better because I don't know how Overwatch is going to do it, but I'll use League of Legends as an example. Everything in the game you can get by playing, even the skins. You can unlock every character, you can unlock every skin, you can unlock every companion, every emote, everything just by playing the game. Rocket League is mostly the same way as well. Mostly. There are some things that you have to buy loot boxes for or that you have to earn in a battle pass. But that's not the case with games like Fortnite. Fortnite specifically has things you can only get by purchasing through the store. I have a feeling that the current installation at Blizzard Activision is looking at specifically Fortnite and seeing how they do monetization and how much money Epic is raking in and saying we can do that too. So I would be very surprised if it is not a special currency.
Okay. I don't have anything else to say on it because I think Joe pretty much said anything I would say. I think we should also mention that there's a new beta test coming out June 28th, according to the email. Again, Liz sent this. So we don't know about the last launch hero, right? Because I know about Sojourn and we know about Junker Queen, but we don't know about whoever number 3 is going to be.
Yeah, when they released the seasonal info, they also said that there were going to be 3 heroes at the first season, 3 new heroes with the first season, which will happen at launch, and we only know about 2 of them.
I keep saying, and my fan theory is going to be true, and we're going to get to see Soldier 76's dad, really old Soldier 76, Soldier 1776. Then then that got ruined, people. So I don't know, maybe. We get a Canadian hero in Sojourn, so I don't expect another Canadian hero. So who knows? Who knows what? But that's pretty much it for the event last Thursday, the Overwatch event. I do think I want to point out one of the things that we actually know from 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to talk about it in more depth because they put out a dev water cooler on it. Diablo IV does its quarterly updates, and when they did the Necromancer reveal, they shortly after posted a quarterly update that talked about the Necromancer in depth. Have either of you looked at it? I mean, I assume one of you edited it.
A little bit.
Joe, have you looked at it at all?
Not really.
Okay. What's interesting to me is that one of the things you'll see in the Diablo IV class design is that every class seems to have a unique mechanic that it is built around. The
like
Barbarian
a resource question mark?
No. It's like the Barbarian has the arsenal system where they have 2 weapons that they're dual wielding and one bigger weapon that they have as like a 2-handed weapon, and they switch between them to do certain moves. Like the version of Hammer of the Ancients that you get in Diablo IV uses the big 2-handed weapon. You literally put your dual wields away, pull that thing out and smash it on the ground. And it's a system that allows for flexibility because it all switches on the fly. So your abilities constantly, you will basically, as a barbarian, you will have 3 weapons equipped at all times. You will have 1 big 2-hander and 2 smaller 1-handers. They will always all be equipped. So that's the unique mechanic of the barbarian. They're basically just a bristling hedgehog of weaponry. The druid has the shapeshift versus summoning mechanic. And, it's like, do you shift into animal form or do you summon animal forms? Or do you just, straight up use nature energy? The rogue has their kind of exposed weakness thing that they're working on, which is based around fluid switching between range to melee. Like you'll fire some arrows, maybe blind or confuse your enemy, get in close, stab them a lot, and then roll back out and shoot them some more. It's kind of like a Boazon, but with more of an aggressive back and forth to it. Like 1 minute you're up in melee, the next minute you're out. The sorceress, I couldn't tell you. I read it. I remember reading it, but I don't remember what it is to talk about it. But the Necromancer has the Book of the Dead. And the Book of the Dead, what's really fascinating about this idea is that you basically, as you go on, you'll start off, you'll get your first undead summon. Like it'll be a skeletal warrior. Then you can get different kinds of skeletal war. Like you can get a skeleton archer, or a skeleton guardian, or a skeleton, aggressor, and that changes the kind of skeletons you can summon. And then they have like the skeletal mages, and they can have like fire summoning or what have you. And then there's golems, and there's a variety of different types. I was watching an interview that Rod Ferguson did with IGN, where he's talking about you'll be able to summon iron golems if you want to. That's a kind of golem that a necromancer will be able to summon.
I mean, it makes sense. Iron sleeps in the earth. Why not?
Yeah, and I think it's also related to blood. Iron blood and life, all that. But one of the interesting things is that you'll be able to have what they call the army playstyle, where you'll have like a lot of skeletons and corpses and big golems following you around, attacking everything that you want dead. But you don't have to do that. Because with the Book of the Dead, you can basically go up to the entry on, say, Skeleton Warrior, and you can check it off, and then you don't get it. And instead, you get a buff and a bonus to certain abilities. And you could do that for just some of them, or for all of them, or for just one of them. Like you could have just one thing you summon, and everything else has been turned off and converted into bonus power for you. So you're like a walking, blood-draining, bone-throwing maniac who just happens to have one guy with an axe following him around. Or you can have half as many summons and buff, buff less stuff, but more stuff. Everyone you trade in, you get a buff to your abilities. Or you could literally trade them all in and just, focus heavy on the magic. And they have like variety of different kinds of damaging spells. They have curses, because they brought that back. But they also have like the bone, blood, and darkness spells. Each of them has a different flavor in terms of how it works. But they're all basically like, they each have like a different kind of AoE setup and a different kind of crowd control or damage negation. Like the blood one in particular, it's basically the Shadow Priest ability. I can never remember what its name, but the one where they basically just turn into a cloud and you can't hurt them.
Dispersion. Yep.
Yeah, it's like dispersion, except that they turn into a cloud of blood. They're literally like a big cloud of misty blood, and then you can try hurting them; it won't do much. And then they turn back, and they can basically yank all the blood out of everything around them, and then explode it back out in their faces. So it's gross. I mean, let's be upfront. The Necromancer Diablo IV is going to be the grossest Necromancer ever. It's all exploding corpses and blood fountains and bone shards in people's faces. But it's interesting because that Book of the Dead mechanic, you really can customize how your Necromancer approaches this. Are you dealing death through sheer like magical force? Are you like using the power of life and death to kill enemies? Or are you surrounded by a ramshackle assemblage of half-dead bodies that obey your will because you're just that profane? And you can mix and match how you want it to work. You could just have one big iron golem following you around. You don't have to have like 12 guys, but you can. You can actually have and there are magical items that boost this. Like Rod Ferguson was talking about how in his testing of the game, he was playing a Necromancer, and his Necromancer got a pair of magic boots that allowed him to summon 2 more skeletal mages. So he's wandering around with like 5 of them. And it's really interesting. There's also some stuff about legendaries and so forth, but that's not really important for this discussion. It's interesting to see how they've got these classes all set up to go in different directions. Like the Necromancer is never going to really match the Sorcerer in pure magic throwdown ability. Like the Sorceress has that. That's her deal. But the Necromancer is basically a really good backup caster and can basically tank everything for you. So you don't have to have a Barbarian or Druid if you don't want to. It's really interesting, like the way each seems to have their own niche and their own mechanic that they're built around. So that's basically all we really got a chance to look at. Liz, you're the one of us who's played Arclight Rumble, right? Like you're actually
yeah.
Can you talk about the leveling and enhancement stuff? Like you don't have to go into too much detail. Just I've heard nothing about it. I've got the post from our site I was looking at, and I thought our readers might be interested.
Yeah. So basically, you have your character, your player has a level. So like you have an overall level. And all of the troops you collect, all of the different units you collect, each of them have levels. And there are also abilities talents that your different troops can have. So, I mean, the best way to level is you earn experience by doing combat and doing quests. So basically, to level up, you play the game. Easy. As you do that, you're gonna level your troops, and as your troops level up, your player character, like you, will level up. Now, what gets trickier is collecting all of these units, which cost gold. Now, gold is a little harder to come by. It is an in-game currency. It's not real money. But, you get gold by either doing quests, and you get 3 quests a day you can do, or defeating new bosses. You can defeat each boss a certain number of times to get gold rewards, and after that, the boss is done. You're done. You've got to move forward. You can't just keep killing the same one over and over. And so you get your gold, and you spend your gold on buying new units or on buying experience for your existing units, so you can level them up so they become more powerful and you become more powerful. And the tricky thing with advancing in Arclight Rumble, in my experience so far, is there are kind of some hard difficulty walls, at least the game as it stands. And I should stress, it is in beta, but you kind of hit these walls where it's just really difficult to advance. So you're just kind of grinding these same quests over and over, and there are only so many quests a day, and it's like you've gotten to this point and you can't get any farther, and it gets a little tedious. Now, Arclight Rumble is a free-to-play game, so of course you can also buy gold and buy experience. And I think what worries me about this is that it's very tempting when you hit this wall to say, okay, if I spend $10, I can level up all this stuff, and then I'll be great. I'll be able to get past this boss, and I'll be able to move on. So I'm really concerned about, is the game designed to be fun enough that you want to keep playing, but also to have these walls that are really frustrating, so you also want to spend money? Because that's the leveling experience feels a little uneven right now, and I'm not sure is that intentional, or is that something they're going to fix and smooth out. But for the most part, you can play without spending any money. You play the game and you earn experience, you level everybody up, and as you defeat new bosses, you earn some gold, and you use gold to buy new troops, and you can also buy talents for your troops. When you get to a certain point in the game, you unlock talents, which I have not gotten to because I've hit this wall at the end of Ashenvale, which is just this really hard boss that just instantly murders me every time. Maybe one day I'll get past it, but I don't know.
All right. Thank you for basically making me not so upset I didn't get into the beta. Not that sounds bad exactly. I'm pretty used to that monetization, but at the same time...
Yeah, it's not weird.
I don't necessarily like it. That's the thing is, whenever I have these discussions with people, I end up having discussions with people who are so vitriolically against it that I'm like, dude, where were you like for the past 10 years? This has been the way it has been for a while. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It just calm down a little bit. You don't have to be spitting at me. And
I was thinking the other day about horse armor. Do y'all remember the horse armor?
I remember that. Good old Oblivion.
About a decade ago, in Elder Scrolls Oblivion, they released this armor for your horse, which conveyed no gameplay benefit and cost, I think it was $2. And everyone just flipped out. This useless horse armor, it's so expensive. What's even happening? Why are these greedy companies charging us for this useless armor? And it's like, oh, wow, those were the innocent days when it was horse armor we were upset about. And now they're designing entire games around getting us to spend money on many, many microtransactions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think there's a lot to not like about that. But
oh, yeah.
There is a lot. For one thing, the thing you just said about the game, the fact that it doesn't... Like, you hit points where you feel like nothing I do matters. I might as well spend the money because I'm not getting through this. That is not good design. I
don't think so. But the thing is, the game is actually really fun to play. So you hit these walls, and it's like you really want to keep going. And I don't know if that's because they haven't evened out the leveling experience or because it's intentional. So we're going to see how it develops before release and see if maybe that gets better, maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, I should push the button when I try and talk. All right. At this point, though, I think we're going to move on to doing some emails. Oh, I do want to mention something else. The summer games done quick is also this weekend coming.
Yeah,
they've been doing a lot of summer games festival type stuff. A lot of various companies doing their little press releases and so forth. A lot of news has been coming out, and of course, more will be. Since Joe just went, yeah, I'm going to ask him anything for that you're looking forward to.
I haven't looked at the schedule yet, but I love it. It's one of my favorite times of year, particularly the summer games done quick, because that's when they do a lot of like odd games, and that's what I'm here for. I love like the weird games that I forgot existed until I see a run going, and I just go, oh, I remember this. It wasn't a fever dream. Like, yeah.
So yeah, there's that. Liz, anything you're looking forward to from it?
I have not looked at the schedule yet, but I basically got into Games Done Quick because of Mitch, which I don't know. I kind of don't want to admit that, but it was Mitch. It was Mitch's fault, or Mitch I should be grateful to, because it's so much fun watching these people speedrun games, and it's incredible how some people can tear through these things. I think last time there was a Dragon Age Inquisition playthrough in like 30 minutes? I forget. It was like outrageously quick, and I just watched them and like my eyes gradually get bigger and bigger because it's just outrageous how they pull these things off.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about the Inquisition one. Although 30 minutes is still really fast because there's the cutscenes don't want to let you through.
Yeah, they're using every trick, every like bug, everything that you can use to like get through things and shave off like seconds here and there, and then they just zoom.
There's a couple I'm going to mention because I'm fascinated to see them when they come out. The first is at 11 a.m. the first day, I believe they're doing. This is Sunday, so it might not be the first day. It actually might be the second day. No, it seems to be the first day. Shadow of the Colossus is getting a run through. And I want to see the Shadow of the Colossus.
It is. Have you never seen the speedrun before?
I've not seen one in a while.
Ooh, yeah, it's gotten real good.
Yeah, there's some. I'm interested in seeing how fast they can get that. There's a Perfect Dark one at 10 p.m. Like I haven't seen Perfect Dark played in years, and they're going to do a speedrun of it. That's interesting.
That is the second time they've done that, and I want to say a year, because they do a few.
But then there's a classic good old Bubble Bobble Part 2. If you remember Bubble Bobble, you'll know why I'm interested in seeing that.
I love that game.
There's Altered Beast at 6:11 a.m. on Monday.
It's not gonna be the Altered Beast you're thinking of.
No, I know it's not. It's
gonna be the remake Altered Beast that they tried to release at the beginning of the 3D brawler era.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to be the original, because the original, that would just be funny.
Yeah.
There's a Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance. I've never seen Harmony of Dissonance played, but I've heard good things. And of course, Link's Awakening, because you got to do a Zelda. So yeah, there's actually a lot here. Silent Hill 4, Outlast, if you're into that. A lot of people are.
Blaster Master.
Yeah. So it does look like it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going straight for like a week here. They
always do a week.
It's going straight up to the next Sunday. So there's going to be an Elden Ring one on Saturday near the end. So if you've been playing Elden Ring, yeah,
I'm looking for. Yes, I'm definitely going to be watching that one, because I am very bad at Elden Ring.
And isn't it wild to see a game that you're terrible at, and you see someone just blaze through it, and you're like, oh my god, he's like a different person. Yeah.
So the interesting thing is, like, this is a category called All Remembrances, which is the boss souls. So it's literally a speed run of doing every single boss that drops a remembrance in the game, and they're targeting 2 hours. That is ridiculous. I cannot wait to lose my mind. Last one they did, Mitch and I were going absolutely bonkers because they were doing Sekiro blind. And I made the comment that, like, I couldn't finish that game. It's the only From Software game I've never finished. And dude just beat it blindfolded. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm bad at games, man. I'm bad at games.
I haven't seen a Bayonetta yet. Bayonetta and Bayonetta 2 have been some of the funniest speedruns I've ever seen.
I love Bayonetta.
So I was hoping to see one of those. But yeah, that's happening. It starts this Sunday, I believe. If you're listening to this recording on the usual time we release on the site, Sunday this week, it'll be out. So you should definitely go check that out, because it's a fun time. It's cool to see people do things that you just don't even think possible. One of my favorite ones of all time is watching the Doom developers watch somebody do Doom Eternal in like 20 minutes.
Yep.
And they're like, how did he do that? So yeah, that's always fun. But at this point, we're going to move on and actually use some emails because we haven't done that in 2 weeks.
Oh, somebody's running an Infernex? Sorry, please, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. If you have a question for the show, you can email it to us at podcast@blizzardwatch.com with the subject line podcast and Blizzard Watch. And I promise you, I do look and I do put them in the email, and we are going to even get some today. I know it's been a while. If you don't want to email us, but you have our Discord or are interested in going to our Discord, there's 2 channels, one for patrons. So if you're a patron, go to Patron Q and Podcast Questions, and we look there first because, I mean, you guys make doing the site possible, and we appreciate it. And if you can't be a patron because we understand money's tight, the world is crazy. WoW expansions are going up $10. We get that that money is not something everyone can throw around. We do still have a Q and Podcast Questions channel for non-patrons. So if you want to ask a question, you can always put it there, and if we will eventually get around to looking at it. Absolutely. Usually we do the thing where I dither about which one of you guys is going to read these questions. So this week, I'm just going to say it's Joe.
Okie dokie. This one comes from Aaron. Or Aaron. I don't know. This could be a Key and Peele sketch. I'm not sure.
He has a pronunciation guide at the bottom of the question.
Oh, Arohan! Yeah, look at that. It's at the end. It helps if I read ahead, folks. So, Arohan. I'm doing the quest line to unlock the Volpera, and about a third of that quest line is essentially union busting, culminating in beating up the union organizer. What are some other quests that leave you with a sour taste in your mouth, and would you want them removed or changed? You and I have a very different understanding of what was happening with the Volpera thing. You were literally freeing them from slavery. I'm not sure that's the same as union busting, but...
Liz?
It's been way too long since I played that quest to comment on it.
The goblins. It's always goblins.
It usually is goblins. I mean, there are some things that are taken so much for granted as normal that, yeah, you get some weird content when you start thinking about it. I mean, particularly unions, it's real common for big companies to just crush unions. And so content like that, I think it's kind of normalized because there's kind of been a long time a backlash against unionization in this country. And that does mean we consume some content that just assumes like, oh, union's bad. This is totally normal. But in this context, it has been years since I played through that quest. So I don't know.
I will say that I have an answer to is there a quest that left a sour taste in my mouth. And this one goes back to Wrath of the Lich King. There's a quest line where you go to the Borean Tundra and you're basically charged by the Kirin Tor to find a leader of the Blue Dragonflight allied mages and drag them back to one of the Kirin Tor places. And when you get him there, they need to get information out of him. So they have you torture him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, excuse me? I did not sign up to be torturing people. I mean, sure, I'd kill people, but at least they're dead then. Not, and that's not the same thing. Not down for the torture. But if you don't do that, you can't progress in the quest. You just can't. It's you torture the guy or nothing. You don't get any of the further follow-up quests. You don't proceed. You don't unlock this. And it was a pretty big chunk of XP, and it's a pretty big chunk of the story of Borean Tundra. If I had like a genie in the lamp, there are so many things I would fix before this. Like, lots of really big important things, and then personal things. But if I could if the genie was like, you can only do something ridiculously trivial in World of Warcraft, I would be like, why are you even here? Why is a genie with all that cosmic power? No, shut up. Just make the trivial wish. Okay. I would make it so your character can refuse to do this. Like, just there can be a yes, I will torture him, or no, I won't torture him. And if you don't torture him, the guy breaks free and you have to fight him, and he cackles and boasts about their plan, and that's how you find out. Whatever.
Real quick, I'm going to walk something back real quick. Chad is reminding me, I'm thinking of a completely different Volpera quest. So I apologize. Yeah, they definitely, I've looked it up. There definitely are union busting in that, which is weird. Sorry. Yeah.
But I think that quest with the torture has always been one that's bothered me. It's bothered me for years. And it is one that I would like them to change so that I don't have to torture people. Because that is not something I want to do. But that's the one I'm thinking of. What about Liz? Did you get to answer this yet, or?
The one quest that has always bothered me is in the Death Knight starting area. You get to this point and like you have to kill someone you used to know.
Yep.
And it's like there's no way out of it. It's like you're a bad guy, and this is kind of how the game is stressing that you're a real bad guy. You're being mind controlled, and it's like it's an effective storytelling tactic, but it's like it never feels great. And it never feels great when you have to do these things without a choice, which is, of course, the whole point of the Death Knights is that you're here and you don't have a choice and you have to do bad things. But man, that whole experience, when it was rolled out, it was like one of the most magnificent questing experiences in the game, and it's still really great, but it's like, wow, feels bad, man. Feels bad.
There's a couple other bad ones, too. Like, do you remember the quest with the crane eggs, where you had to go and steal the crane eggs and then murder them parents as they try to defend their children? Like, there's a lot of that in WoW. I could do without those. Or the quest line where you were kidnapping Wolvar pups for the Tuskar. And don't get me wrong, I love Tuskar. That was questionable at best. Yo, go kidnap their kids. We're tired of this. What? What
are you going to do with the kids?
Yeah, none of that is ever really... They don't talk about that. There's nothing. There's a lot of weird ones. Or I guess I should say questionable ones. There's the one in, I want to say it's Borean Tundra, where you use, I think it was like a needler or something like that. Basically, you go up to an imprisoned mage and you rip locations out, or basically interrogate him with psionic drill bits until he gives up a location of an NPC.
I think that's the one I was talking about.
Yeah, was it? Is that it? Because there's a bunch. Because there's a bunch of torture ones, and it is awful. Like,
in Wrath, there's also in the Death Knight starting zone. There's one where you get a couple of flaming hot pokers, and you repeatedly stab a guy until he tells you where the Scarlet Crusade are. That one's like, yee, okay.
There's the Thistly Crow / Harpy quest in Cataclysm, where you are torturing a harpy for information, and they do give you a choice to save or kill. But if you save the harpy, Thistly Crow is like incredibly cold to you and like super disappointed. Yeah, there's some weird stuff where I'm sorry, there's like a torture thing going on, and I don't like it. Anything with torture needs to be just taken right out.
You could also say a lot of Horde quests in Mists of Pandaria, just really not feeling good. And a lot of this comes down to not having any player choice. It's like just you're playing Horde and Garrosh is calling the shots, and you got to do what Garrosh says, even when it's super terrible and you hate it, because you can't advance through the game otherwise.
Plus, it's not even helped if you play Alliance. You still do a lot of terrible stuff, but also Alliance players get to go to fight the Horde people who aren't the Horde PCs, and they're all maniacs. It's like, I don't know if Garrosh said, okay, half of the mission will be relatively reasonable people, the other half will be lunatics, because that's how it comes off. I'm sure the Alliance don't come off any better. It's just yeesh.
There's another one that I remember too, Horde side, that was just questionable. I think it was before Cataclysm. There was a quest in Undercity where there was a female Tauren who was sick, and you were sent.
Oh, I remember this. Yes.
Yeah, you were
absolutely.
Yeah.
I did this on a Tauren.
Let me finish this for everybody. I was on a Tauren too at the time. You were sent to go get a list of ingredients for the apothecaries to fix her. But when you come back, the quest giver uses it to kill her. He never actually said they were going to save her. It was just implied, and you were complicit in the murder of a sick Tauren. Sorry, please. It was rough. There's a lot of stuff like that, man.
Yeah, I remember that one because I actually wrote about that one all the way back in 2007.
Yep.
When we were at the other place. And because, I remember that was, whoo, I stood there for 10 minutes trying to find some way that I could kill that undead. Like my Tauren there had to be a way I could kill him, and there wasn't. But yeah, that was really bad. And that was one of those ones where it's like, it isn't my fault, but I feel like it's my fault. I did not like that. But unless either of you has anything else, I think we should probably move on.
Yeah, I think we should move on. Let's try to be happier.
Liz?
Yes, let's carry forward.
No, you're up.
You should be reading.
Now I have to read. This is so much work. Well, the next one is not so much a question, but a comment from Mithriak, who says...
No, you're skipping one.
Am I?
Zool.
Oh.
Mithriak's response is to Zool's comment. So Zool asks a question, Mithriak responded, and then Zool comes back in.
It's a package
This
deal.
is so complicated. Okay. From Zool, here's a fun one. When does enough patch Xpac items become too many? 9.2 added so many random bits you need together, and then one of the slowest methods of gaining the necessary parts, motes, to make the most of them. When is it just too much? I gotta say now. Now is too much. It's too much right now. I mean, the whole crafting in Zereth Mortis, I think, is a really cool idea, but it involves so many components that come from so many different places, and some of them are so uncommon that I have no idea what I can craft. I have no idea what to go and get. I collect all of this crap in my bags, and it just stacks up, and then I go and I occasionally go to the place where you can craft things to see if I can craft anything, and that's basically it. It doesn't feel like a crafting system. It feels like a junk collecting system.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. Zereth Mortis was probably the worst it's been since Motes. Like, I honestly feel that. There was so many things that you needed to have in your bags or in your bank or whatever. I was super happy when we had the consumable stone soup to just throw, like, stuff into just so I could get it out of my inventory. Because, like, I wasn't going to do anything with most of it, so, yeah. And then they make it so that there's, like, either no or very low sell rate to vendors, so...
Yeah, there's a tendency in World of Warcraft, and it's been bad for a long time. I remember I used to get into like competitions with other people who also have this problem of just having so much junk in my bags and unable to get myself to get rid of it because I might be able to use it, for crafting. So I'm holding on to it, even though I'm never going to get enough to use it, or I'm never going to actually bother to level cooking all the way to the point where I can make the feasts or the tables or whatever. So I'm carrying around like 16 legs of like some animal meat that I'm going to, this expansion's version of beef. And it just, I get why it happens. And yet there's always that part where the new expansion is coming and suddenly you realize all this stuff I have in my bags is now worth absolutely nothing. And all I can do is vendor it for the pennies, like the coppers on a gold price that you get for vendoring it, or just jam it in one of your alt's banks and leave it there. And then like in 3 months, you'll log that character on and go, oh my God, and then log right back off because you don't even want to try and deal with their bags.
Yeah, so, I actually go through once an expansion, like at the beginning of an expansion, just to empty my bags of the stuff I'm never going to in the bank of what I'm never going to use again, and I marvel at how much bag space I get back.
Like the real problem is that after a point, I forget what I'm collecting these things for. Except I'm like, okay, but this might be useful. This might be for something that I really want to have that I've just forgotten about, so I should keep it anyway. And then my bank is just piled and piled with stuff that has no use or identity even.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. It's just weird. Wow, you got a hoarding problem.
I mean, yes.
It's WoW's fault. It's not my fault. It's just WoW encourages all of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you don't want to be like I was. I remember throwing out back in Burning Crusade. I remember what were they called? Primal Nethers?
Yep.
Nether Vortexes.
Yep.
You needed a thing called I think a Nether Vortex to make the last version of the big sword that I could make, but I didn't know that, so I just kept vendoring them. And then someone was like, "You put those in the auction house," so I put it in the auction house and made a little gold for a while. But then I was like, "Oh, I should see what it takes to make that big sword," and I realized I had gotten rid of all the materials. I would have already had the thing had I just, realized I needed them. And since then, it's been like nothing gets thrown out ever until it's the next expansion. And even then, sometimes I keep it.
Audilug makes a really good point in chat. If it's useful, it will be at the auction house. Just let it go. I mean, that's true. Even the old stuff, like as people do old content for transmog and stuff like that, people will just throw that on the auction house, usually for a pittance. So, like, you could always go back and get older stuff if you really want that sword or really want to make that mount. I may or may not have constructed all 5 of the lions. Like, you can get them for cheap. So,
but now that we've basically revealed that we're all basically addicted to holding on to Chris Basilisk urethra, Joe?
Yeah. The Immortals in the Shadows seem to be the new Diablo Immortal as sanctuary protectors. Or seem to be new to Diablo Immortal as sanctuary protectors. Are they new to this era of the game? And if not, where else have we seen them? Any lore to shed more light on them would be much appreciated. And this is from our friend who has turned into a barbarian, Barsemi.
Oh, Barsemi. I can tell you this much. They are new, but they're also based in stuff we've seen in previous games. Specifically, what we learned about Westmarch in Diablo 3 and how Rakis came to there to build a city on the ruins of a previous city. And if you remember in Diablo 3, when you're exploring the ruins to find Adria, you realize you're in an ancient Nephilim city. And Rakis went there looking for clues to the Nephilim. That's the whole reason Rakis came from Kyrgyzstan to Westmarch in the first place. He founded Westmarch basically because he wanted to find out the secrets of the Nephilim. He wanted to find out why were our ancestors practically gods and we're just this. So the city he went to is the city that the characters you see in the Immortals and Shadows trailer were living in. It's their civilization is the one that fell, likely because of the Immortals Shadows cycle that they have going on. But so yeah, they've never appeared before in a Diablo game, but they are based in stuff we've seen before in Diablo games. The whole thing in Diablo 3 about the Nephilim is very much part of what's going on there. So if you guys have anything else to add, go ahead. I just wanted to jump in and say.
I mean, this was a question for you like the entire time, man. I got nothing else to add.
All right, I guess that's it.
Okay, we're gonna call
Liz,
it there.
You want to do? We can do one more. Liz, you want to do the last question or the next question?
Okay. Hello, Ice babies. Too cold, too cold. It's Korn again with a question about Diablo Immortal. I know the game is set in 1270, some 5 years after Lord of Destruction and Tyrael's choice to blow up the World Stone. But I'm confused about why it would be so bad if Scam gets his hands on a World Stone fragment. I mean, is a little piece of the World Stone as powerful as the whole thing was? And if so, why are we only hearing about it 5 years after the destruction of the original World Stone? Have they all just been out there since this time and nobody noticed? Also, why does Skarn sound like he's our pervy uncle talking about our true kin and our sin and just creeping me the heck out? Thanks for any light you can shed on it. Corn, not that corn, I promise. Although I do need some skulls for my skull throne, if you have any.
I knew it. Next, you're going to ask for blood for the blood god.
I know the answer to this, but if you want to go.
Yeah, you go with the actual answer because my knowledge of any lore is always pretty iffy.
All right. Well, first off, when you meet Cain, Deckard Cain, he basically tells you that the only time they can detect the World Stone fragments is when they're being used.
Yeah.
So someone has to find them and then start using them. And once that happens, he can detect them with a ritual that the Haradrim you're using.
But he has to be using the ritual, right?
Yeah, and the ritual it's derived from the ritual that they use to create the Soul Stones. Because Soul Stones are also pieces of the World Stone.
Yeah, the way that I think about them is like they're just really powerful spell foci, right?
Yeah. In this particular case, though, yes, every fragment of the World Stone has the same power as the World Stone.
Really? They're that powerful?
That's when you see them in use. It's not that they're not as powerful as the World Stone. It's that their effects are limited to the person who has them.
Yep.
And what they can imagine them doing. So the first person you fight with a fragment is basically just trying to blow you up. But the second person actually has a plan and is using the World Stone fragment to achieve that plan. The third person is doing something even weirder with it. And the fourth one's trying to raise a dead brother. And when Skarn gets it, at this point, it's going to be spoilers for Diablo Immortal's end plot. So I'm now going to give you a few seconds. If you don't want to hear that, move on, come back in like 5 minutes. When Skarn gets the World Stone, you find out that what he's trying to do is the opposite of what Malthael tried to do in Diablo 3. Malthael wanted to kill all of humanity because we had demon ancestry. Skarn wants to rip the angel ancestry out of us, leaving us all pure demon. He literally is turning people into demons. And he wants to he's using, of all things, he's using that light, the holy light that it resides in every human. He's using it as a power source to create his army of demon people. So he's actually drawing it out and using it as fuel. And he even converts an angel using the World Stone as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he's using the World Stone inside one of the Primeval's skulls. His final base is actually the body of Diablo. The original body of Diablo.
As I look over and see the shard of the World Stone shoved into Diablo's skull that originally shipped with Diablo 3 Collector's Edition, because that was a thing.
Yep, that the Soul Stones were all World Stone pieces. Yep. So yeah, it is as powerful. It is really bad if Skarn gets his hands on it. He can't do what Inarius did with the World Stone and make a whole world, but he can use its power to give himself what he's looking for. It's like the scale is different, but the power is the same. But in terms of why we only hear about it now is because when the thing blew up, the pieces went everywhere. And it's not like those pieces they're just little rocks unless you get it out and really look at it. And they went everywhere in the world. Some of them are probably in the ocean. We're not going to see those for a while.
Well, also,
yeah.
I mean, you also got to think about it too. Like, folks that come across them and do anything with them have just as much possibility of blowing themselves up that they are doing something else with it, right? And
it's also stated that like a lot of people can't do anything with them.
Yeah, they're not able to attune to it or whatever the case is.
Yeah, they don't have any power, or they're not like, they don't have any drive. They're not like one of the people you find is trying to get his dead brother back, and his entire life is built around that need. So he's got something to fuel him onward. The average farmer finds this thing, and it's not like, oh, I've always wanted revenge on that rabbit. I mean, maybe it is.
I'm just thinking of Bill Murray and Caddyshack.
Yeah, that groundhog. But yeah, so that's basically what's going on as best I can. There's still some stuff I'm not quite up on yet, but that's the basics of it. That's why it is bad if Skarn gets it. Gets it,
and I think
because he can literally use it much like a reverse version of Malthael with the Black Soul Stone. He's going to use it to turn all of humanity into demons.
Yeah,
that's what he wants to do.
And I like the way that you put it, Matt, where it's the power is the same, the scale is different just because of the scale of the stone.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I like that a lot.
But I think that's going to be it for our emails and questions.
Indeed.
Unless, we're done. So at this point, I'm going to ask Joe to do the thing I always ask Joe to do and take a quick break to drink something while he does it.
A Blizzard Watch is made possible due to the generous contributions at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means this podcast site and community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to the podcast, better chance of having your question answered on our podcast or the queue, and an ads-free site experience. As a reminder, those of us at Blizzard Watch do continue to stand with the employees of Activision Blizzard as they work to further progress unionization in their efforts to demand change for a better tomorrow and a safer work environment. Again, congratulations to Raven QA. Do the thing. We're proud of you. Keep going.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Again, this has been the Blizzard Watch podcast. If you've got a question for the show, now that we're actually answering them again. And by the way, I have to look up really fast. Strom, I'm sorry I didn't talk about that Sabercat skull. I've wanted to talk about it for 3 weeks, and I just keep forgetting. I'm sorry. Okay. If you've got a question for the site, the podcast here, or for any of our other podcasts, you can email it to podcast@blizzardwatch.com with the subject line podcast or Blizzard Watch, so we know it's for this show. And we're going to do another Tavern Watch at some point, and it would be great if you asked us some questions for that as well, guys. Seriously, Tavern Watch is so fun. Or you can go to our Discord server, and we have the patron Q and podcast questions channel where you can leave questions there. Again, they can be for Tavern Watch. Stuff's happening. Or you can go to our, just our Q and podcast questions channel for non-patrons. Same deal there as well. We love to get questions. Some weeks are real busy. It's been kind of unexpectedly hectic the past few weeks. Like, I don't think any of us were expecting as much news as we've been getting.
No. Nope.
So
it was not anticipated.
News is good for us.
Oh yeah, it's good.
News is good.
I'm just saying, it's like usually in the past it's been very much a not much until August thing, like Gamescom, then BlizzCon, and so forth. Now they're just doing it as they do it, and so we're getting more events and so forth. So it is interesting, and we are doing our best to adapt. But yeah, this has been the Blizzard Watch podcast. Thank you as always to Liz and Joe for coming along and making this a podcast where I'm not just talking to myself for an hour, because that literally would just be about dinosaurs. There'd be no escape. Also, it wouldn't be recorded because Joe does the recording. So I would basically just be streaming myself talking about dinosaurs. Wow, this is getting less and less compelling by the second. Anyway, again, thanks to both of them for being here. Thanks to you for being here, because again, without you, it's just us talking to ourselves. And not that it's not fun to talk to them, but I mean, for an hour, we're all hungry, I'm pretty sure, and tired. So yeah, you make this show worth doing. You make it your why we do it. Thank you so much for being here with us, and we'll see you next week. The podcast right now. Oh no, I'm passing out right now.